If you were trapped in a dystopian mind control game by billionaire tech bro Dexter, how would you survive? Today we're gonna take a look at one of the most underrated dystopian worlds in how to survive the tech dystopia of gamer. In the very precise timeline of some years from this exact moment, the US society is totally collapsing. Poverty and homelessness is on the rise, and the prison population is totally out of control and destined to bankrupt the country. This is where Ken Castle comes in, with the idea of society, basically the live version of the game The Sims, where the poor and the homeless can give up their bodily autonomy and play as actors inside of this game, and the rich players take control of their bodies through mind control and do whatever depravity they want. Society basically represents the decay of the modern society. Everything and anything is for sale, even intimacy is considered a commodity. Once they step into the confines of society, the actors are hollowed out. They can still feel and hear everything, but they have no autonomy. Basically, anything and everything the player wants goes, at the cost of the mental scars. The game is insanely successful, because apparently everyone in America is a psychopath, making Ken the richest man alive basically overnight. After recording this whole segment, my brain actually reminded me of the whole NPC trend, and after looking into it, it's insane how much money people donate during live streams just for people to pretend to be non-playable characters. So yeah, this would totally work in reality shit. The technology behind it that makes this whole madness possible are the nanocells. Basically, a single nanocell is implanted into the subject's brain, and then it starts to replicate and replace the original brain cells of the subject. Each new cell has the possibility of receiving commands from the outside, so the nanocell plus the cortex makes the nanex. Ken promises that outside of the boundaries of the map of society, the avatars are free to do whatever they want. There's no control of their nanex. And this is the biggest trust me bro I ever heard. Because we all know that our overlord billionaires will never abuse that kind of power, right? If society was the soft, seductive cell for the horny, depraved, rich basement dwellers, Slayers is actually for the real psychopaths. Inside Slayers, people can take control over death row inmates, where they can kill each other in a battle royale style. And the offer is quite simple: win 30 battles to win your freedom. The insane part is that all the inmates don't even know what's going on outside. They don't know that they've been piloted by probably some 17-year-old, and they don't know why they're doing that this is just a game for the people outside. This is basically just gambling with your life, like playing a game of Russian roulette 30 times in a row, hoping that you're not gonna shoot yourself. And obviously a lot of people just go insane. By the way, what's the obsession with America of turning their inmates into a death game where they all kill each other? I swear they done this in the Running Man and the whole Death Race series, which I love them, but still, this obsession needs to be studied. The only people trying to oppose Ken Castle and stop him before gaining total domination is a group of hackers called Humans. With Society and Slayer, Ken got the population used to the idea of the nanex, but phase 3 is where total domination comes in, where he plans to implement this in the healthcare sector, where he wants to solve the whole healthcare system by providing the nanex to everybody, and everybody who will join his program will have a longer life, providing basically a backdoor inside of everybody's mind. Humans know that by that time it will be way too late to stop Castle, so they plan to uncover the truth before he rolls out with phase 3. Their only hope is Tillman, aka Cable, the current top player of Slayers, the only one who managed to survive 27 battles, and it's only 3 battles away to gain his freedom. He is an ex-military, and he was one of the first to be experimented on with the nanex, so his mind could hold the key to take down Castle. The only way he kept his sanity is because outside he has a family to come back to. He has a wife and a daughter. The resistance wants to scan his brain in hopes to find any incriminating information on Castle and taking down his whole empire. Castle knows that Tillman is a huge liability and he cannot let him free, so he plans to take him out. The problem is, Simon, the 17-year-old that pilots Cable, is actually very good at gaming, and Cable has the reflexes to execute his commands. so he knows that it's unlikely that he's gonna lose to other competitors. Their only weakness is the ping, the delay between Simon giving the command and Cable receiving it and being able to execute the command. Castle's plan is to infiltrate Hackerman, aka Evil Terry Crews, to take out Cable in the next battle. The difference between Cable and Hackerman is that Hackerman has no player controlling him. No player, no delay, no ping, so this is basically a cheat inside of the game. And to be fair, this is a solid plan and it would have totally worked except for the fact that Hackerman commits the cardinal sin of evilness. He starts monologuing before doing the thing and gives up the whole surprise element. During the next battle, Cable gets jumped at the end of the session and barely manages to survive because he was saved by the bell. The Resistance contacts Simon, telling him that if he really wants to win the game, he needs to cut Cable loose and let him play by himself. Simon reluctantly agrees and downloads the hack that will allow Cable to play by himself during the next game. Tillman has other plans though. He understood by now that the game will never allow him to win and get out, so in order to get back to his family he has to escape. This is where he comes up with the most moronic plan ever. He asks for the Resistance to sneak in a bottle of spirit inside of his gear, a bottle that he doused before the game. Then he proceeds to roll around in the map like a drunk until he stumbles upon a garage where he pisses and pukes the alcohol inside of a gas tank to drive outside of the map. Huge problem here. You need at least 4 to 6 liters of gasoline in order to turn on a full empty car, or 1 or 2 gallons, which is way too much compared to that tiny ass bottle that you have. But there was definitely no need to drink it. They already managed to conceal it into your gear. You could have just carried the bottle. Nobody would have noticed. You already passed the checks. Not only that, but this whole plan was totally unnecessary. The cars already have gas inside of it. How do I know? Because in previous battle they already showed that people were driving the cars around. And with everybody just under my control and not being able to leave the confines of the map, there was no need to put any other checks inbound. I feel I put way more thought in this than the actual director who made the movie, because this was stupid. By the magic of plot armor, Tillman manages to survive another assassination attack and actually drive off the car outside of the bounds of the map. Once outside, he's taken in by the Resistance to deactivate the nanex inside of his head. The leader explains that he needs his help to take down Castle, and in exchange he can give him the location of his wife and daughter. Angie, after Tillman went to prison, lost the custody of her daughter, and she actively works in society to earn some money and get her daughter back. The counselor Neil Perry doesn't really think that she should have her daughter back, because the new parents are really rich and they can provide everything for her daughter, while she, does basically this version of OF. This is so weird to me because she didn't need to do any of this. I mean, she is the wife of the most famous player of Slayers. She could basically go on any talk show, write a book, do anything, and she could earn a lot of money with very little effort. I don't even think that her husband would get mad because she would be doing this for her daughter, but I'm guessing that they are just allergic to logic. While working in society, Angie is followed by Gina, a reporter that is looking into the death of Cable. She doesn't really believe the story of the media that he died during his escape and wants to know more. While at the bar, she gets picked up by horny Peter Petrelli. Oh my god, how the mighty have fallen. The player decides to change location to have some you-know-what time. And this is the moment where Tillman finds his wife. And he doesn't take it very well, giving Peter the whole Bane treatment. Which, hey, I get it. But, the player that plays Angie and Peter are two pieces of shit and probably deserve their back broken in 10 different places. But the actual guy, the avatar, he's innocent. Can you imagine going in to work one day and being paralyzed the next? Tillman forces the player that controls Angie to come with him and show him where the exit is, but at the elevator he gets ambushed again by Hackerman. And boy, yeah, he's not getting up from that. By the way, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge how terrifying is Terry Crews in this movie. He played the psychopath so well. So well, in fact, I totally forgot he was the guy that was also in White Chicks. Tillman magic bullet vest somehow let him get up and run down the stairs, catching the elevator at the first floor and kicking the absolute ass out of Latrell. Once outside, they get picked up by Gina and her Oompa Loompa in her van, and they head to humans. I don't understand what I just said. This movie is such a fever dream, I swear. Back at HQ, the hackers finally do a brain scan on Tillman's head to look for the first period when he was subject to the experimentation for the nanex. And turns out that he and his buddy in the military were the first two subjects. They were promised better reaction time, better thinking, better clarity, and no neurodegeneration. But instead, they were part of the ultimate test. Castle wanted to do the ultimate test to see if he could do something against the Avatar's will, and he did. He killed his best friend in cold blood. But the bad news doesn't even end there, because it turns out that the family that adopted her daughter is actually Castle. This is some generational hate. You don't understand. This is a reverse Flash level of hate. It was me, Tillman. I killed your best friend. I sent you to death row. It was me, Tillman. I turned your wife into a life of prostitution. It was me, Tillman. I stole your daughter. Like, what the fuck? This is crazy. This is insane. After all those jolly revelations, Tillman wants to go and kill Castle. Understandably so. Super stupid, given that he's trying to go alone, but still understandable. Gina tries to stop him to get more of the story, but outside she noticed that they're being followed. Castle's men managed to track down the IP address of Angie before they could turn off the nanex. Once inside, they make quick work of the resistance. They basically terminate everybody. This kinda pissed me off, because what do you mean you don't have a security system or guns in case of this specific scenario? You're going against the richest billionaire alive. Of course he's gonna come back knocking eventually. The only one who survives is actually Gina, because she was outside chasing Tillman. Once Tillman's arrived at the Castle's mansion, he finds that he's actually waiting for him. What a surprise! Like, I have your daughter, of course you're gonna come. And like the super villain he is, he actually greets Tillman with a whole musical dance show. Because of course, with a bunch of inmates under his control. Which, I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty sick. Tillman does some quick work on the inmates, but when it comes to Castle, he reminds him that, hey boy, I haven't done my villain speech yet. Do you mind? Castle goes on to explain that it actually didn't matter what they did, because he was in control the whole time. He reveals that actually he substituted 98% of his brain with the nanex. But his brain is special. His cells are actually designed to send out orders and not to receive them. Whatever he thinks, others have to comply. To prove this, he sends Hackerman once again against Cable, and he lets Cable win. Cable takes the knife and goes for the kill shot, trying to end Castle. But he reveals that this is totally useless, because once he gained access to the humans, it was pretty easy to reverse the hack that they did on his nanex, and they're active again. What he didn't see coming though is Gina reactivating the streaming function in the nanex, giving access back again to Simon, and live streaming their whole conversation to the world. What's unrealistic is actually how insanely built he is. Like, holy hell, was that part of Henry's code too? Also, we all know what is the ultimate billionaire build. Come on, movie, it's so easy to get it right. While Castle plays with his food, he somehow manages to get 3 cuts from one knife. And I've heard people on YouTube calling them the Wolverine claws, but come on guys, this is a clear Enter the Dragon reference. Eventually he gets tired of playing, and in true psychopath fashion, he wants to finish it by forcing Cable to kill his own daughter like he killed his best friend. I mean, man, the Reverse Flash has nothing on this guy. What he didn't predict though is that this time Cable's will is much stronger, and Simon, while listening to the whole conversation, decides to actually help Cable take down Castle. With conflicting commands from both Simon and Castle, they reach a stalemate. But here is where Cable pulls out a 4D chess move. He uses the power of intrusive thoughts to overpower Castle. He tells him to imagine this knife going inside of his guts, and to make it happen. And it actually totally works. In the end, Tillman finally gets to get his family back, and tells the very apathetic engineers to turn off their nanex, so they can ride off into the sunset. A lot of people actually hate on this movie on YouTube, and I kinda get it, because it feels like it has been edited by some horny 15-year-old with ADHD. Especially the gaming scenes where they add a lots of cuts here and there where it's kinda hard to follow the action, and a lot of glitch sounds and sound effects to make it more gamery, I think. And it's funny because actual gamers hate that. They hate every type of like non-smooth gaming. They would buy a 5090 for gaming, which is insane, by the way. But if you get past all that, it's actually quite interesting, the world building that it's all behind. I really wish that the director focused more on the technology and the two worlds of society and slayers. They were actually very interesting concepts. Personally, I'm a sucker for every movie that displays mind control or telekinesis, because I find them so fascinating and hard to counter. And in this case, the main protagonist had the plot armor thicker than steel, because Castle, all he had to do was like sprinkle some powder with the nanex on every politician and every person with influence, and he would be set. He didn't have to do all that cartoonishly evil things to that poor family. He could have just left them alone and do his thing. He was already the richest man alive and could have taken control of everything. Like, realistically, why would you do that? But then you're reminded of the actual billionaires in this world, and we've seen the downfall of some of them this year, so yeah, the ego is pretty big, so this is actually plausible in the end. All that to say, if you plan to become a evil overlord, man, just don't monologue, do the thing. Otherwise, it's game over.